All right, welcome to Touchdown Talks. I'm Spencer Taylor. This episode is going to be a quick, fun little episode, just ranking every single helmet from 32 to 1, worst to best, of my favorite and least favorite NFL helmets. And so, without further ado, let's get right into this. I don't want this to be super long winded. So, with the 32nd spot in my NFL helmet ranking video, we have the Arizona Cardinals. Now, the Arizona Cardinals, they have multiple different helmet designs. Now, with each team, we're only going to be going off of the specific helmet that is pictured in this video. I know every team has, or at least most teams have alternate helmets at this point, and each team is, a lot of the teams are frequently at this point coming out with new helmets every few years. Basically every year it seems like a team has a new alternate helmet they're coming out with, or they're changing their main helmet. Things like that happen over time, but for the purpose of this video, we're going to keep it simple to the specific helmet shown in this video. So for this Arizona Cardinals, nothing much to say about it. It's basic, clean looking, but it's just a simple white helmet with the logo. Nothing too crazy going on. It just doesn't really stand out to me. And, just plain white helmets, don't really tickle my fancy, I guess you could say. I don't really love them. Don't think they're all that special. So for 31, we have the Washington Commanders helmet. This one, not a terrible one. From what I understand, I might be an outlier as far as my opinion goes on this helmet. From people that I've talked to, it seems like people actually do somewhat enjoy the look of this helmet. Personally, this helmet just doesn't do it for me. I know others may like this helmet, but it's just, I do like the maroon-ish color. I don't know if that's the exact right color for this, but, I like the colors, the maroon and gold. It's not a bad color scheme. But personally for me, I think maybe my opinion of this helmet is brought down just simply because I don't necessarily love the branding for the Washington Commanders. I think they could come up with a much better name for themselves, better mascot, all those kind of things. And with that would come a better logo. Not to say that the logo is terrible, but just a simple W. I mean, again, I'm not harping on just the fact that it's a letter. A lot of teams have letters, just a simple letter as part of their logo and their branding. That's totally fine, but I just personally, this helmet is brought down just because I think the Washington Commanders brand, I think they could do much better than what they have done with the Washington Commanders. But otherwise, the color is fine, and as a helmet, it's all right, but obviously being at number 31 for me, one of my least favorite helmets currently in the NFL. At number 30, I have the Indianapolis Colts helmet. Similar to the Arizona Cardinals helmet, this one just doesn't really do it for me. It's mostly white. As you'll see, I tend to not really love the all white, the mostly white helmets. Just doesn't do it for me. It's not that I'm against it, but I tend to like the helmets that are either more colorful or even the helmets that are mainly black. I tend to like those more. Again, just totally a personal preference. Now, similar to the Arizona Cardinals helmet, I've got this one pretty low because I don't really love white helmets. You'll see that I tend to like colored helmets or even black helmets more, but it's not necessarily anything wrong with it, but that's just what I think looks more visually appealing. I don't really love the white helmets. I think part of it has to do with, for me, when I see a white helmet, I mostly think of like just generic sort of football movies. A lot of times, obviously, in football movies, they'll keep the helmets simple, maybe just one color. Obviously, because a lot of times they don't bother getting any branding rights from any particular team or whatnot. And so a lot of times in football movies, whether they're good or bad, you end up with a lot of very simple helmet designs that may just simply be a solid color, maybe with a stripe or anything like that. And I feel it personally. I feel like white is one of those colors you see a lot in movies like that. So for me, I tend to, I think partially because of that and just because I like other color schemes on helmets, I'm not usually the biggest fan with these white helmets. One thing I will say for the Colts helmet over the Cardinals helmet, for example, is that I do appreciate that this one has a blue stripe across the top, and I do like the white and blue mixed together, but other than that, pretty simple helmet, not my favorite. Now for number 29, we have the Cleveland Browns. I like this helmet. It's not great, though. It's not my favorite. And again, I say I like it, and you might say, well, you've got it pretty close to the bottom. I like basically every NFL helmet. I just obviously in a ranking gotta have some at the back, some at the front. And to me, the Browns helmet, one of my least favorites. I think it's kind of an interesting helmet, just being that the Browns are unique in that the brown helmet is their logo, and so I think that's kind of an interesting thing. You know, all the other teams have logos that are specific to their mascot or lettering for their city or whatnot, but the Browns, they do have other logos, but the one that has been predominantly used, the simple brown helmet, and so I think it is, of course, pretty fitting and cool that their whole helmet is just what the logo is, but because of that, it makes up for a pretty simple design, you know, kind of an odd orangey color for the whole helmet with just, you know, the black and white stripe kind of thing going on, and, you know, that's about it. It's a simple design, and in that sense it's good, but, you know, it's not really my favorite color. And of course, if they could have, you know, even if they had their elf, I can't remember what the name is for the elf mascot that the Browns have used from time to time, but if you could have that on there, or, you know, something else, might make the Browns helmet a little bit more fun. But again, at the same time, it is a very fitting helmet. Nonetheless, that's the Browns helmet. Next up at number 28, I have the Carolina Panthers helmet. This helmet, from what I've seen, I might be an outlier on this helmet as well. I might be a little bit low on this compared to others. I do like the Panthers branding. I like their logo, of course, and the coloring is pretty unique. You know, that lighter blue with the black and silver. That's a unique color scheme for NFL branding, and it works on the helmet here as well. But, you know, just again, not necessarily my favorite. I understand a lot of other people actually really like this helmet more than I do, but I don't know. Again, it's just kind of, I think part of it is the main color of the helmet being lighter. Again, tends to not necessarily be my favorite. It's not necessarily the case here, and I'll be honest, sometimes, to some extent, my personal opinion on this helmet might be slightly skewed just because I don't necessarily care for the Carolina Panthers as a team. So that might be slightly affecting my ranking here. But a helmet with black as the dominant color, I think that would look really cool for the Panthers, that kind of a thing. But their normal gray with the logo on it, just not my favorite. At number 27, I've got the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I like this helmet. It's unique, of course, with their logo that is, you know, a good bit different than most NFL logos. You know, I really do like the Buccaneers logo. I know some people aren't a big fan of it, but I think it's a pretty cool one. Now, the helmet itself, not much to it. It's just a simple gray, and that's it, and then the logos. So it's a pretty basic helmet, so that's part of why it's so down low here. But, you know, I can't say that I have too many ideas for how this could be improved. You know, I do think the Buccaneers would look cool, you know, with black helmets or something of that nature. You know, maybe you could even change the face mask to a different color. That might be kind of cool. But for the normal Tampa Bay Buccaneers helmet, pretty simple, just simply not my favorite. At number 26, I've got the Miami Dolphins. This one's a good one. It's a clean helmet, but again, has that white color scheme. Now, to be fair, with the Dolphins and their branding colors, I think white is probably one of the best colors you could go with. Now, I do think it would be pretty cool to see a Dolphins helmet that had more of that. I don't know if it's teal or what the color name is. Feel free to let me know what this color is. The bluish greenish color that the Dolphins use. I don't know what the official name of it is, but a helmet that is predominantly that color, or maybe an orange even, would have to be done right. Certainly you can see why the Dolphins go with white, because with the logo on the helmet to go with it, white is the best one that kind of contrasts with the logo and makes a good color pattern there. So I do like it for that. I like the stripes across the top on this one. But again, just another predominantly white helmet. Just not really my thing usually. And so that's part of why the Dolphins helmet is pretty low for me. Now at number 25, we have the Detroit Lions. Now for me, the Detroit Lions helmet, this is another one, clean. It's a lighter color. And really for me, that's not much of a detracting factor on this helmet. It's just that this one's kind of a more simple helmet. And we really are getting kind of into sort of those middle tier helmets. So it's not that I think this is a bad helmet. Again, as I said, I really like pretty much all of the NFL helmets that are out there. Now, there have been some bad ones, certainly some alternates out there in the past. But, Lions helmet, pretty simple. It's their standard helmet. They've made changes, of course. They've got some cool alternatives they've had and currently have. But this one, pretty simple. I do love the blue that the Lions use. But other than that, it's just a pretty simple helmet. And again, I tend to gravitate towards the more colorful or darker colored helmets. Then at number 24, we have the Buffalo Bills. This one's a good one. Gotta love the red, white, and blue. I love that color scheme, of course. And, the simple white with the red and blue stripes across the top. And then, of course, the logo. It's a great pattern, but I think for the Bills, they've had the red helmets in the past. I think a predominantly blue helmet would be really cool. Those types of things. Again, I just don't necessarily love the white helmet predominantly. I think there's too many teams, even outside of the NFL, whether you go to college or high school level, white is just a very common helmet color, and so that's part of why I don't really love it as well. And so that's part of why the Bills find their helmet so low on my list. Now moving to number 23, we have the Las Vegas Raiders helmet. This one's a classic, as many of these are, but another one, lighter color. This one more of a silver gray. With the black stripe. I like it. It's very the Raiders brand is very strong, so I can't knock it for that, of course, but again, it's just not a helmet that screams my fancy. I don't really have a whole ton to say about this one. At number 22, we have the Atlanta Falcons helmet. This is the first predominantly black helmet that we've got on here, and a darker color. I really like this one, but at the same time, it's very simple, so I'm not going to give it a ton of credit or say that it's super special. I do think, one thing that's kind of underrated that I'm just really thinking about right now, I do really like the fact that they've got the more like silver color for the face mask. I think that goes pretty well with the helmet. But yeah, it's just simple black silver face mask with the logo on it. So there's nothing too crazy going on, which in a way is great. A lot of these helmets are better just simply because they look clean while still having the logo on there. So I do like the Falcons helmet, but it just, of all the 32, not one of my favorites necessarily. Number 21, I have the Tennessee Titans helmet. Now, I'll be honest, Titans helmet is kind of one it's not my favorite. I don't love it, but I don't necessarily hate it. Very simple. A darker navy blue, that's, silver color for the face mask, and then the logo, that's all there is to it. And the Titans, personally, I think they could do better with their branding. I think they've got such a cool name and mascot. I just think they could do more with it, and so that plays into part of my ranking for their helmet. Moving on to number 20, I've got the Denver Broncos. Broncos, and yet another simple one, the navy blue with the logo. I think this one works, though. I like the darker colored helmets, and certainly any kind of blues, that's always going to harken to me. Blue is my favorite color, so now navy blue isn't necessarily my favorite kind of blue, but still helps to have some version of blue. And again, it's a darker helmet. It's simple, has the orange from the logo on there. And I don't really have much to say about this one. This one's a pretty good one, about average for me, in my opinion, as far as NFL helmets go. Now up to number 19, we have the Seattle Seahawks. I like this one. Another dark blue on this one with that little bit of green from the Seahawk eye. I think the Seahawks would be interesting to see, that green as the helmet. Probably wouldn't look very good. This version of the helmet is probably about as good as I could imagine for a Seahawks helmet. I think this one's a really good one. It's nothing too crazy, which is why it's not super high on my list. It's just, again, opinion-wise, it's not my favorite. It's not, when I think of NFL helmets and what ones are my favorite, this one's not going to really come up for me. But in a logo competition, I do really like the Seahawks logo. And, speaking of that, maybe that's something I'll do in the future, is just simply ranking team logos. That could be an interesting one, slightly different list. It certainly wouldn't be the same order as this ranking, but yeah, for the Seahawks, good helmet, but still kind of average. At number 18 on this list, I have the New Orleans Saints. This one's a good one, a unique color with I believe from my research, if I remember right, this color is technically called old gold, is the type of gold that they use, is old gold. I like the color, very unique. Only other team to use a version of gold as a prominent color, of course, is the 49ers, which admittedly you haven't seen them on this list because I like their helmet better, and I do like the gold that the 49ers use better as a part of their branding and their helmet. But for the Saints, predominantly gold. It's a good look. It's a unique one with the black and white as the other parts of the helmet. I think this helmet looks really good. It's really clean, and it works really well with their branding. And so that's why it finds itself here. It just, again, isn't my favorite necessarily. At number 17, I've got the Jacksonville Jaguars. And again, other than the logo, it's just simply the black. I do really like predominantly black or darker colored helmets. I really like that. And so that is really the main factor in why the Jaguars helmet is up here. But I also do really like the other colors that they use that are a part of the Jaguars branding. I think there's tons of room to work there for good, cool alternate helmets and things like that. And then moving into number 16, we have the Houston Texans. I'll be honest, I almost feel like I should have this helmet higher. It's, this is just simply where I decided to put it. Once again, I really like red, white, and blue as a combination. And then the simple navy blue helmet, that's going to speak to me. Don't have much else to say other than that one. This one's a good helmet, one of my favorite ones to look at. And then at number 15, I have the New England Patriots, another red, white, and blue. I mean, the branding, as much as we might have all been exhausted from the Patriots dynasty or whatnot, or maybe you were a Patriots fan and you're wishing we could have those days back. Whatever the case, just going off the helmet, I think looks really good. I like the red face mask, but the color, just simple gray, not necessarily my favorite. Doesn't really stand out a ton, but it does work really well with the branding. And the logo, it is one of the bigger logos, so it takes up a good amount of space on the helmet and adds that color there. So the helmet itself doesn't necessarily need that much extra color. The sticker and the face mask kind of do that. And so that's why it's up here on the list. Now at number 4, we have the Baltimore Ravens. This one's one that was kind of tough. Another one that I almost wish I had placed higher, but it seems like from people that I've talked to, it doesn't seem like people, some might be as high on this helmet as I am. Again, I really like the black on it. I like the purple stripe across. And then, the branding of the Ravens is really good. And, of course, maybe my opinion is slightly tainted just by the fact that the Ravens have pretty much always been a really good team in my lifetime. And so that might play into a little bit of bias towards the branding for me. Now at number 13, I've got the Pittsburgh Steelers. I like this helmet. Again, black, the yellow stripe, just the branding of the Steelers. It's another good brand in my opinion, and that does partially play into some of these rankings. I'm realizing, as much as I'm trying to keep it just about the helmet, some of these it really does come down to what I think of the brand, the logo, the color scheme of the brand in general, and also kind of envisioning how the helmet works with the other, uniforms and things that those teams usually have. The Steelers, it's a classic. It's a good one. Now moving on to number 12, I've got the Minnesota Vikings. Pretty unique one. The Vikings using that great blue, or sorry, not blue, purple. The Vikings use the purple, and then that little hint of yellow along with the white for the horns. This is one that partially is up there, not only because of the uniqueness in branding colors, but also just the fact that this is pretty much our first helmet on this list so far that we've seen where they've got some kind of horns or wings or things like that isn't just a letter or a logo. A lot of teams, the majority of the teams either have just their main logo on the helmet, or they have a lettering on there, or maybe nothing in the case of someone like the Browns. But I do like a lot of these helmets that have either horns or wings or whatever, something that goes along with their mascot but isn't necessarily just their team logo. I do kind of like that on these helmets because, for example, with the Vikings, they could simply just have their Viking logo on the helmet, but they don't. They've got the Viking horns, which is a really cool idea in my opinion, and I do like that purple. It's unique. It's a darker color, and so that's why the Vikings are semi-high on this list for me. Now at number 11, just outside of the top 10, I have the Green Bay Packers. And, it's a new, unique one, that bright yellow contrasted with the dark green and the white. As much as it hurts me to say it as a Bears fan, it's hard to, give compliments to the Packers, but I do have to say it. I like the Packers branding. I do think it's a good look and a unique one, certainly. Green and yellow is pretty unique for sports branding and branding in general. So I like it as a color scheme. And for the helmet, again, it makes it unique and it looks pretty clean. And also just stands out among the rest. Now entering the top 10, at number 10, I have the Cincinnati Bengals helmet. This one's another unique one. They don't just have their logo slapped on the side of the helmet like many teams do. Now they do use the logo, as you might be able to see at the front there, pretty small, but otherwise they've got sort of the Bengal stripes going across the helmet with the black and the orange, and I think that's a pretty unique way of doing it, the way that the Bengals have. Now I know it sounds like, from what I've learned, some people think this helmet looks really ugly. Personally, I disagree. I think it's a really good-looking one, and so that's why it finds itself at the bottom of my top 10 for helmets. Now, at number 9, I have the LA Chargers helmet. This one's a really good one. I like just the yellow face mask. That's a pretty unique colored face mask, and this is a white helmet, so this goes against what I've been talking about with not generally liking white helmets, but this one is pretty much the exception to that rule for me. I do really like it here with the branding color schemes of the Chargers. I like that lighter blue that they have, and again, this is an area where the blue is helping them, and the blue and yellow together, it's another unique combo. in the NFL to have those two colors together, and I just think it looks really good. And to have the two lightning bolts across the sides of the helmet, I think that's a pretty cool look, and so that's why it finds itself pretty high on my list. Now at number 8, I have the New York Jets, and this one, darker helmet. It's a simple one, but I think it looks clean. And by the way, this is, if you're looking at this helmet and you're scratching your head saying it doesn't look quite right, that is, of course, because the Jets just recently updated their logo and some of their branding. So the Jets logo itself looks a little bit different, but I don't think it looks too bad by any means. And otherwise, the helmet is the same as it has been. It's just simple dark green they have, and I think it looks good. It's a unique color. There's a very small amount of teams in the NFL that use a green at all, let alone a dark green like this. And I think the Jets helmet looks pretty good because of that, and it stands out for me, so that's why it finds itself pretty high. Now at number 7, I've got the Dallas Cowboys helmet. It's a classic one. Whatever you may think of the Cowboys as a team, whether you cheer for them or hate them, I can't deny I really like the helmet. The blue and white star, just it really pops with the lighter colored helmet. And this is one of those cases where it's not a white helmet necessarily currently, but I do like the lighter colored helmets here for the Cowboys, and it just makes that, the blue and white star just, pretty big on each side of the helmet. It just makes that star pop, and I think that's a really cool design for the helmet for the Cowboys. Now to number 6, I have the San Francisco 49ers. This is the gold color predominantly that I mentioned earlier that the 49ers use, and I like the gold color on there as the main color for the helmet. It's unique because of that. And then also the red and white striping, as well as, of course, the logo on there. And I think the 49ers helmet, it's a classic one. It's one of the better ones. Personally, it stands out compared to other helmets. And also, of course, doesn't hurt too much that the 49ers have always been a pretty good franchise. And at number 5, entering the top 5 for me at the start, we have the Philadelphia Eagles. I like this helmet. It's a dark green. This one, they've got the wings on there. They don't just simply have a logo on there or whatnot. They've got the wings. Now, I know some people might think that the wings, or at least the placement of them, might look a little weird. It certainly is unique. Some teams might have, if they do have wings or horns, they might have them placed with the beginning of the wing kind of towards the center side of the helmet. But I like the way that the Eagles have it here coming out from the front. Makes it unique. And then that dark green, I think it's a pretty cool, prominent color for the helmet. Now moving on to number 4, I have the New York Giants. Now this one might be a unique one. I'm sure a good amount of people would probably place this helmet at least a little bit lower. I understand that. But personally, again, I said I'm a sucker for blue. And honestly, the Giants have probably one of my favorite colors of blue for NFL teams. I like that. So, there's, you got like your baby blues, you got like your navy blues, but for me, sort of more of a royal, center colored blue, I would call it. That's darker, but not too dark. This kind of color really screams to me. I really like it, and it's the color they use as the predominant color of their helmet. For example, take the Colts. They have a pretty similar prominent color for their branding. Maybe a little bit darker. Come to think of it, I'm not 100% sure, but for example, with the Colts, if they were to have it be that the helmet was blue and they use their logo as white for the horseshoe, I think I would like that a lot better, and that would, that version of a Colts helmet would be a lot higher for me. Maybe not this high, because For the Giants, they do also have the fact that they've got the red, white, and blue, which is a combo I've said I like. And so, yeah, this one I really like the color scheme. Now just having the New York lettering logo on there, nothing too crazy as far as the logo goes, of course, but this isn't a logo ranking. This is a helmet ranking. And as I said, I really like this color scheme. It really stands out, and the blue really speaks to me. Now, with the top 3 on this list, the number 3 spot for me goes to the Kansas City Chiefs. I like this bright red. It's a pretty unique helmet color in the NFL, and it's pretty simple. The bright red, and then you've got the Chiefs logo on there. Nothing too crazy. However, one of the things I do think that's cool on the Chiefs helmets, that may not necessarily apply to most NFL helmets, but the Chiefs helmet is unique as it's one of those helmets where the logo that is on the helmet is different if you pay attention to it for each side of the helmet. Because with the Chiefs helmet, of course you have the KC on each side, but the arrowhead on both sides, if you pay attention next time you watch, the arrowhead on both sides faces forward. So, really, if you think about it, the one that we're looking at on this side, from our perspective, it looks like the arrowhead is pointing to the right, whereas if you were to look to the other side of the helmet, the arrowhead is going to be facing towards the left. So both arrow points point forward. I think that's kind of a cool design. Not only do they have sort of an image for their logo, but it also has the lettering, and obviously the lettering stays in the same order. So really you've got 2 unique logos on each side of the Chiefs helmet. So the bright red with the white face mask and the branding as well, the white and black, I think that's a really cool color scheme. Now, at number 2, you might say that this is a very biased ranking, and you might be right by saying that, but I don't care. This is my list. And at number 2, I have the Chicago Bears helmet. Now, you might be saying, well, if you're going to be this biased with the Bears helmet, why not put it at the top? For biased reasons, I, of course, want to put the Chicago Bears helmet at number 1, but I felt that would be unfair. And, what can I say about the Bears helmet? Of course, it's my favorite team. And part of the reason the Bears became my favorite team when I first started liking football was because of their branding. I like the blue. I like the orange. The blue, orange, and white. I think that's a cool branding combo. Of course, the bear as a mascot, I think that's a really cool branding choice. But, and all sorts of other reasons, I like the Bears in general. But for the helmet, it's a simple one. I like the orange C on there. I know that the Bears have toyed around and the fandom has toyed around with the idea of having the bear logo on the helmet instead, which I think might be interesting for a look, but I think the bear logo might look a little bit, I don't know, it might be a little too much for having it on a helmet. This keeps it a little bit more clean and simple looking, which I like. And so, yeah, that's why it's up here for me, of course. Maybe a biased ranking, that might be fair to say, but I couldn't help but put this one higher because, again, this is my ranking based off my opinions, and certainly one of, if not my favorite helmet to look at. But the reason I don't have it at number 1 is because I can't say that it's not the most, just based off of helmets, the most impressive to me. And if you've been paying attention to what teams have already come up, you know which helmet I'm talking about. The number 1 helmet for me is the LA Rams helmet. I really like this helmet. I mean, first off, the blue, of course. I've mentioned my love for the color blue, and this specific kind of blue is by far my favorite in the NFL. And, hey, it's not the right color, but if the Bears were to use this color of blue on their helmets or on their uniforms just as an alternate for fun, I don't know. I'd have to see it, but I think I would really like that. But nonetheless, back to the LA Rams helmet here. As I said, really like the blue on here. Also, the blue on the face mask is really cool to me. And then you just got that bright yellow horn on each side for the Ram. I think that's really cool to go with the branding. They really could, if they wanted to, just have the Ram logo on there if they really wanted to. But, of course, it's not uncommon for teams with the branding of Rams, whether it's the NFL or at lower leagues. I know there are other teams that are branded with the Rams name that will use horns like this, but I think with just this bright, these specific colors of blue and yellow, I really like it. They stand out a ton. They're super vibrant, and so that's why this helmet is so high for me. It's a vibrant color scheme. It really stands out, and again, it doesn't rely on what a lot of helmets rely on with a bunch of white or a bunch of black. It's very vibrant and very, it stands out a ton. This isn't one that just has a simple logo on there or anything like that. It's got a very, the branding is very perfect for a helmet, and it, is very much stands out right into your face. And so that's why I really like it. If we think back just not too long ago, before the Rams slightly changed their color scheme when they moved back to LA, before they had the, sort of the more tan color for the horn, and then kind of a more of a navy blue. Back then, I wasn't really the biggest fan of their helmet or their branding colors, but now with the bright colors, I think it's a really cool color scheme, and I wish some of the other NFL teams out there. Now, of course, if every team was to do this and make their helmets super vibrant and stuff like that, it would take away some of the uniqueness, and at that point, it might not be so special. But I do think the LA Rams branding, and therefore the helmet, just looks really cool and stands out. Now that I've finished with the list from 32 to 1, I want to just really quick give you a look at some tier lists that I made, as well as some others, in the process of ranking these helmets. Here's a tier list version of my rankings for NFL helmets. So again, I ranked them from 32 to 1, but based off this tier list, you can see sort of, at least within a tier list, where I would put them. And from this point, you could maybe mix and match some. Maybe I would move up some of these, some down, at least within their own tier. And then this was a tier list I made with some family, just trying to see some of their opinions. Some of these family members that I did this tier list with aren't football fans, so I knew that at least with their opinion, I was going to be getting unbiased opinion, and that they would be able to more easily go just straight up based off of looks, rather than allowing any thoughts about the team to play into it. And then this tier list is a average based off of rankings from anybody who has done this specific tier list on tiermaker.com, and this is the results from the average of everyone that's done it. And one thing to notice from all these tier lists is I had more of the helmets towards the top, whereas my family's tier list and this one from everybody that's done it, certainly is more well centered towards the middle. But again, for the most part, I think all the NFL helmets look pretty good, and I like a lot of them. With that said, this is my ranking 1 to 32 of all NFL helmets. I hope you have a great day, and I'll see you in the next one.